Welcome, everybody, to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. I talk about 4 different types of freedom: time, financial, location, health freedom. And I'm always looking for entrepreneurs, influencers on the cutting edge, changing the world. So today we have Collette Portis, and she's actually the CEO and master business coach. And she's a award-winning author and business owner. So today's talk is going to be all about business growth, timeless wisdom and gems, and entrepreneurial success. So with that, thanks so much for coming onto the show, Collette.
Thank you for having me, Christopher.
Yeah, I know we had connected through Podmatch. You, like I said, tell the audience more about your story and your background, and we'll get started.
Yeah. Again, thank you for having me on the show. I am first the mother of the most amazing 25-year-old dude in the world. So that's my first work. And secondarily, I'm a serial entrepreneur, business owner. I am an award-winning master business coach. My job every day is supporting those who are crazy enough to step out on their dreams and spend their days moving that idea forward. And so I started this work 30 years ago at the ripe old age of 16 while I worked for the federal government. And it just so happened that my school was teaching me Microsoft Office, and nobody in the building in the federal government really knew it. And my boss's job was to train reservists and get them ready for the field and deployment and all of that. And I just happened to know what he didn't know. And chance would have it, I got to teach, and then I got to coach and tell them how to deploy this technology in their squadrons and things like that. And so that's how it happened. It's all crazy, but that's what happened.
What's one that's really, so everybody has to get started from somewhere. And I love people stepping out of their comfort zone and their boundaries and really growing. In the end, entrepreneurship is all about growing and making an impact, and it takes courage. So kudos to you. What kind of broad topics is, first thing is, you've been a CEO, and what are some of the characteristics and traits that make a successful CEO?
I think a great CEO, one of the first characteristics, and not just CEO. I mean, if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, what makes you a great business owner, a great entrepreneur, a great founder is first that you have to care about people. And you have to understand and know the value of people. There's no one person on earth that's ever done anything great without people, without other people. It's impossible to exercise your greatness. One of the core values at my company is an African concept called Ubuntu. And what that means is I am great because you are, and I am because you are. And it doesn't matter how amazing you are, Christopher, as a physician, right? If you don't have people to work on, nobody would ever know you were amazing. It doesn't matter how amazing I am as a business coach and how gifted I am at helping companies grow. And if I don't have people to support me in doing my work, then I don't get an opportunity to be great. And so I think that's the first thing as a business owner, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as a great CEO. The first thing you understand is that you need people and people need you. And if you care about them, then they will care about you. And those who don't, that doesn't make them bad people. That just means they're in the wrong place. That's all. That's number one. Number two is consistency and determination, because all being a business owner, an entrepreneur, a CEO is developing a plan, having a vision, developing a plan, and then working that plan every single day, making small adjustments every single day until you get it right. But if you're not willing to do the same thing every day, making small adjustments until you get it right, well, you'll never get to the place if you keep changing everything every day.
Yeah, I love that. in the end, it's all about people, and people can actually do more than like, degrees and titles, because, people are kind of the grease. It's like kind of the grease that makes the wheels turn. And you're absolutely right. You can be the best doctor, but if you have we always hear about the best doctor, but the worst people skills,
Yeah.
they usually don't last very long. So I love that. And then from there is like, since we're in a people business, if you were to do it, all over again, would you do it from the same path, or would you take a different path? And what piece of advice all small business owners should know?
I would take a little bit of a different path. So I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My parents, both set of grandparents, my aunts and uncles. I didn't know anything about punching a time clock until I was 27. I didn't even know that existed. I'm like, you actually have to ask people, can you go pee? Is that even a thing? Like, I'm an adult, right? As an adult, you don't ever think you would have to ask that. So I was traumatized by the time clock because I just wasn't aware of that because my family was entrepreneurs. My family told me to do the same thing they told, your family told you to do. And even though they were all entrepreneurs, they told you to go to college, get a degree, get a good job, get a job paying a pension, non-existent nearly, right? And so I did that. And even though I started my first business at the age of 14, I still did what they told me to do. They told me to go to college, and I did. And I spent 20 years of my life in college. I got 6 degrees, overkill. Nobody needs 6 degrees. But like I can't think of anything that means that you need 6 of them. And so I did that. And if I had it to do it again, I probably would have gotten, I know I would have gotten my associates. I might have gotten my bachelor's, but after that, I would have stopped. Listen, doc, you need the doctorate. I don't need that, right? It's not necessary for me to do the work that I do. And I've been doing this work since I was 16 years old, and I was really, really great. And that doesn't mean that college didn't teach me or add anything to it. It did. But when I weigh the time spent and the money spent compared to the value that I get on the back end, the return on investment just isn't that high. So
Yeah.
that would be the thing I would do differently. I would have started my business. I would have kept going in business as opposed to spending 20 years in college.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite there's talking to a lot of guests, especially entrepreneurs, and a lot of kids are questioning, should they go to college? And, if you have a very strategic purpose for college, or, it can't be just something that everybody does, kind of like the
Yes.
rat race and climbing the corporate ladder. So these days you have to be very intentional how you use your steps you take, what decisions you make, and sometimes that means going against the grain, going against what society says. So the other thing is, so really interesting, because I love these kind of like timeless wisdom. What are three key takeaways for any person looking to become an entrepreneur?
Well, first things first. Listen, okay, so I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to get on my soapbox just a little bit, but I'll control myself. One of the things that is really paining me as of late, maybe the last 3 years or so, is this idea that if you don't have money or you're impoverished or you need to make money to start a business. So that is so far, that is so not a reason to do it. Most people who start businesses end up in a place where they are challenged for extended periods of time with just taking care of their own basic needs. So if that's already your challenge, starting a business doesn't resolve that. It exacerbates it, right? There's this idea that if you don't have enough, then start a business. No, if you're not willing to commit wholeheartedly, if you can't look at that thing that you're thinking about starting and go, especially if you're thinking about quitting your job, if you can't look at it and go, you know what, I will be homeless to follow this dream. I'm that committed to it. If not, then don't Use your family resources for that purpose. Keep your job, work it as a side hustle, right? Until you can get it to a place where it is generating revenue. But people have this idea and this concept of quit your job, go start a business if you want to make money. That doesn't really work that way. And I tell people all the time that starting a business is like having a new kid. For the first 5 years of that kid's life, you don't even expect this kid to make you a bowl of cereal. You don't have that kind of level of expectation of your kid to feed you. But people will start their businesses in 6 months. They expect the business to start buying steaks. The business can't buy steak, nor can it cook you a steak. It's not mature enough to be able to do that. And so we go into this with the wrong expectations. So have the right expectation and know that this, like parenting, is one of the hardest things you will ever do in your life, but you have to be committed to it. I had a coaching session with a client last week, and I said to her, I said, if it meant you needed to feed your kids, would you think about it? She said, no. I said, would you make it happen? She said, yes. I said, well, you have to do the same thing. You have to know that this is like feeding your kid. You have to just go make it happen. You can't let your kid not eat. That's just not an option. You can't let your business not generate revenue. That's just not an option. And nobody goes, you know what? So I'm just not going to feed the kids tonight to make sure that you're okay because I really like you and I really want to see you achieve whatever. Nobody's ever done that. Nobody ever does that, at least not good parents, right? So why would you ever do that in your business? Why would you ever say that the money is not important? Well, food's not important to your kid because revenue for your business is food, right? You would never do that. You would never say, I'm going to only take a half a piece of chicken to feed my 4 children because $20 you're asking me for this. Enough. You would never do that. You're like, if I give you $20, you're gonna give me enough chicken to feed these 4 kids. That's what's gonna happen. So then when you're looking at the pricing for your business, you cannot price based on your heart. You have to price based on the necessity. And the necessity for your business is that it needs to be fed. And what is it fed? It is fed revenue.
Yeah, cash flow is the lifeblood, and you, like you said, and a lot of people listening to this, especially, I hate to call out doctors, but a lot of doctors undercharge for their services, and they don't get paid what they're worth, and it's really, and other people are like entrepreneurs. They're some entrepreneurs, they went to no school and they're making more than doctors. So you really have to price. You have to, and I love what you said is like you talk about you have to constantly create a demand, but then you also add value. So when you add value, it increases the price for your what you're providing. So and yeah, and the more revenue you have, it's not for yourself. The more revenue is for you to help other people. You can reinvest in the businesses, hire other people.
Christopher, let me tell you, there's a book I'm listening to right now by Rabbi Lapkin called it is called, hold on, Thou Shalt Prosper. And oftentimes, the only reason you start a business, become a doctor, things like that, is because you love people, right? You want to help people.
Yeah.
Rabbi Lapkin talks about, there's a point in the book where, and I'm going to paraphrase, there's a point in the book where he almost says the audacity of you not to go make money. Because now I'm a Christian woman. The Bible that I read says money answereth all things. Coupling that with what Rabbi Lapkin says, it's saying the audacity of you to not go get the answer. The more money you make, the more you have the opportunity to help. You cannot help, right? If you have a starving baby, but you only have a corner of milk in the jug, you cannot move that baby from starvation to satisfaction. or bare necessity even, because you don't have enough. And there's this idea, and one of the things, my heart for physicians and attorneys, my heart for physicians and attorneys, because you go to college and they tell you you have the answer, period. You have the answer. You are the answer. It doesn't leave room for you to understand that there are other answers out there. And so because we have the mind that I am the answer, we don't realize that I may be able to save a life, but what I don't know how to do, what I don't understand, I might understand veins and organs and muscles and all of that. But what I don't understand is cash flow and revenue and strategic planning and human resource. That's what I'm missing so that I can do, but I need both to be in good balance so that I can do more of both. And to your point, you're absolutely right. I knew there was a woman that was referred to me. She graduated, she had gotten her white coat, and she opened a practice, or she started, right? She went and got a location. She bought all of her equipment. She had her name put up on the door. She had her business cards and brochures. She had all of that. But guess what she didn't have, Chris? She had not filed for a corporation. She didn't have an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp, a DBA. She had none of that. She didn't even know she needed to. There's this whole other world that has to be coupled with what you do every day. And I promise you, it's not just doctors and attorneys. It's just business in general. And I say all the time that, if you're going to put your kid on a football team, the first thing you're going to do is find a coach. It is the absolute first thing you're going to do, because what you understand is your kid needs to understand the fundamentals and the rules and how to play the game and how to play it safely and what equipment they need. They need to have a schedule, and they need to have strategies, what we call plays. All of these things are necessary.
Yeah.
But when we start a business, we just think magically it's going to download into our heads and we're going to know what to do. That's just not how it works. That's just not how it works. You need someone who's going to help you, who's going to guide you, who's going to show you the way. And there are specific rules to the game. And that person knows the rules. They should at least know the rules and be able to teach you the rules so you show up. Ubuntu, your greatest, and they get to show up their greatest.
Yeah, well, fantastic. I love that really inspiring message. How do people contact you, follow you, check you out, and possibly work with you?
They can always find us at Red. And Dr. Christopher, there's an amazing tool that I've been using for probably about 15 years with businesses. And this year I decided to give it away. And so it is a free download on our website. It won't be free for much longer, but it's a free download on our website. It's called CEOs Finish Strong. I'm sorry. And what that is the checklist that I use twice a year with my companies to make sure that they are growing and that they have accountability and that they are still moving their companies forward. So if they go to reddevelopmentgroup.com, they can download that. But we're also on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So we're also YouTube. We're also on the social media platforms as well.
Yeah. For all the listeners out there, let's thank Collette for a wonderful, fantastic conversation about, business skills and really being intentional about how we apply ourselves today. She's all over social media, as well as check out her company, Red Development Group, to check out the free resource. And with that, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you for having me.